Tonight on Ham Nation, Gordo interviews Ed Barnes WA6ED from South Orange Amateur Radio Association, and I talk a little bit, well, maybe a lot, about Broadcast Band DX'ing. Stay tuned, Ham Nation is next.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of Ham Nation is brought to you by ICOM. For more information, visit icomamerica.com/hamnation and by DX Engineering. DX Engineering offers practically everything you need to outfit your shack, plus the fastest shipping in the industry. Most in-stock items ship the same day, Monday through Friday until 10 p.m. Eastern. For more information, visit dxengineering.com/hamnation.
This is Ham Nation, episode 426 for October 30th, 2019. Broadcast Band DX'ing. Good evening and welcome to another episode of Ham Nation. I'm George, W5JDX. Bob Heil is not with us tonight. He is on the road, and so is Don Wilbanks. But we have part of the regular crew here tonight. But first, say hello to my little friend. And say hello to Amanda with the pointy hat.
Good evening, everybody. I know I'm very scary. Let's see. We're getting a ton of snow here in Colorado, which we desperately needed. So we got about 12 inches, had a couple snow days this week. It's been wonderful. So hello, everyone. Tune in. I'll have chat room news for you at the end of the show.
That is a nice costume, Amanda. That suits you well. Don would have said it if he was here, so I had to, I had to substitute for him. We've also got Gordo with us tonight. Gordo, what's going on with you?
Well, we've been working fire communications the whole time in support of our local fire watch operation. And let me tell you, hams have been really busy last couple of days here in Southern California, but by golly, the fire department appreciates all of the hams. Got 8 fires in Southern California. Hey, this weekend, Sunday, November 3rd, Washington Amateur Communications, they call themselves WACOM, are having their ham fest at the Washington County Fairgrounds. So there's your job for Sunday. We have a special guest, and working the short shots with me tonight is Ed, WA6ED. And Ed, great to see you, and welcome aboard Ham Nation.
Well, thank you, Gordo, and it's a pleasure to be here.
And Ed's operation, the South Orange Amateur Radio Association, is a club that continues to grow and grow. They're up to about 240 members. And yes, as you can see there, SOARA makes everything happen every which way. But the way that I think they're growing their organization should be something that all of you who work up club programs may want to consider. So, Ed, how about telling them about SOARA Saturdays, and then we'll roll into your short shots. How long you been doing this, Ed?
Well, I've been doing it for probably about 3 or 4 years now, but it was started by NM6X, Mike, and it was an idea of his to do something a little bit more detailed than just meetings. So what we really wanted to do is do more education, give people time to ask questions and give answers, and Elmer people.
And with a lot of live equipment. So, Ed, how about describing how you pull off a SOARA Saturday almost every Saturday of the month, and how you get friends from the outside, hams, coming in to learn about SOARA and all you do? Go ahead, Ed.
Okay, well, we bribe them with coffee and donuts. It's once a month. Usually we have it 1 month. We schedule them a year ahead of time. So I try to find out what different members want to do, what they want to learn about. This particular slide is where we're doing HF operation at Gillerin Park and trying to show people how to hook everything up. So it was a lot of fun learning how to hook up tuners and the power supply and throwing that dipole over the trees. So this one is where we had emergency power, and it was one of the first ones that we did, but on emergency power, we had a great turnout, and a lot of people were really learned a lot of different things about the weaknesses in setting up their power. So this is where Steve, K6 UVR, was demoing solar panels and how to hook up solar panels. He had a multimeter there showing people how to measure the voltages and the current on the solar panels. A lot of people were really interested in the details because they wanted to set up their own battery chargers, things like that for emergency power. This one is where Jim, KI6LOM, was hooking up a screwdriver ground rod. It was really funny. We had noise on the generator, and the generator was driving Ray, AE6H, crazy on UHF, VHF. Jim went and grabbed a screwdriver, some wire, and grounded that generator, and noise went right away.
Wow.
This was where we did battery boxes. So a lot of members wanted to have emergency power for battery boxes. Upper left is K6TNY, Tony. He's moved to Florida now, but we still correspond on ideas for battery boxes. We use power poles, multimeter, little meters, connectors for 12-volt cigarette lighter sockets, all kinds of stuff. This is where he's showing Lori how to assemble that and build the battery box. And then this one is a SOARA Saturday where we did all kinds of fun stuff, but mainly an Arduino theme. We like playing around with Arduinos and Raspberry Pis. And John on the right there was demoing all his different Arduino boards. He collects Arduinos, I collect HTs, I guess. But we have a lot of fun with different things like this. This is W6INE, our vice president, learning how to solder. And we took the cheap Pixie radio kits off of eBay and stuff, and we were showing people how to solder. And then after they got it, after they had it built, they wanted to make it work. So we had a following SOARA Saturday on how to make the Pixie radio kits work. This one is a field strength meter. We used a Harbor Freight multimeter and then added circuitry on there with a switch where you could switch it in and out. And I believe that's Scott WHC, I believe K6 WHC, Scott, and he was building up a field strength meter. This is Lori building a dummy load. So this dummy load was a kit. It was I put all the parts together to make the kits, and it was an article, I believe, off of an older QST. Everybody really loved building that. And this is another shot where a few youngsters and other people were building their kits at Gillerin, not at Gillerin Park, but at Murray Center. So a lot of people built dummy loads that day. This is a kind of a difficult shot, but you'll see a QFH antenna. We were picking up NOAA satellite transmissions and demoing how to build a QFH antenna with just PVC pipe. That's on the left there. It's kind of hard to see a little bit, but it was a lot of fun. We were using an SDR to receive the signal and then decode it, and we could actually see the maps there. This is Mike MSM, and we were demoing software-defined radio. Very popular topic is software-defined radio in our club. A lot of people buy different software-defined radios, play with them, and do different things like HF monitoring, UHF, VHF monitoring, all kinds of stuff. So this was a demo of that. This was an unusual one. We actually had a lot of different instrumentation, and we were showing people how to use LCRs, oscilloscopes. One person brought a service monitor, all kinds of different equipment. And that equipment was just to give different people a flavor of what they could do to measure in their own shack. So a lot of people had a lot of fun that day with that. This is where George was putting together what was that? That was a connector box. So this is an evolution of the battery box where you just build a connector box and then plug it into a battery and you just move all the connectors from battery to battery. So it's a lot more modular, and then the connector box can be kept inside the battery box. This is an offset attenuator, and we use this for T-hunting, and this was a little kit with a 3D printed case. It's a really kind of cool. We actually built tape measure antennas on the same day, and there might be a shot of that a little bit later. And there's your tape measure antennas. So we built different tape measure antennas. I believe it's the Legos is the guy that did the original instructions on this, and then we made sure everybody had information on that, on how to build the antennas. This is Jimmy, and Jimmy is these are parts for a magnetic loop antenna. There's a group of us that are building magnetic loop antennas from scratch, and you can see the coupling loop down there and a few parts for the main loop. And this is all 1.5-inch aluminum tubing, and he has his oscilloscope there. That was Alex, K6FTL, faster than light, and Alex is actually putting together one of the QST antenna analyzers using an Arduino. We had a lot of fun with that one. I loaned him one that I built so that he could debug his. So a lot of us were actually getting into building our own antenna analyzers, and that was really cool. So we were debugging that. This was a SOARA Saturday where we did a lot of different things, but one of them was jumbo spots for both D-Star or Fusion or DMR. And as you can see, people sit around and talk and have a lot of fun just sharing stories, things like that, and playing around with different aspects of ham radio. That was Brian up there on the right. This, you can go ahead if you want. This one is tape measure antennas again, and people actually went outside. We were at Murray Center. We went outside and was testing out their tape measures, and then antennas, and then we also had young future hams there too. So we try to encourage people from all ages to visit our SOARA Saturdays and show how we do different things. This was a T-hunt. Joe Mole was at a SOARA Saturday, and we did a walking T-hunt. Boy, how confusing that was, having all these different T's go off, time synchronized. But Joe showed us how to do it, and it took a little bit, for me, it took a little bit of time just to get my bearings and calm down a little bit. But after a while, we started finding the T's, and this was just all within walking distance of the Murray Center. And then there's Joe. He was setting up a table, showing the timers, all of that. This was just before he gave everybody the instructions on how to do the walking T-hunt that day. But we had a lot of fun, and a lot of people came out to practice and learn from Joe that day. And then this is when Joe was giving instructions, and there were quite a few people around there listening. We were all spread out, of course, so it's hard to get a good shot. But everybody was getting ready to get their antennas going and start looking for those T's. This one was on DMR. Mikkel on the left there, he gave a presentation on DMR, and this was quite a while ago, probably about a year or so ago. And what he did was try to get everybody into the basics of DMR, setting up their HTs. So everybody showed up with their DMR radios, and we tried to get as many people up and running as possible on DMR. And you can see here where people just love to talk. They stand around, go have a cup of coffee, a donut, and they'll talk about anything from Firewatch to ham radio to anything else that's on their mind. But it's a lot of fun, a lot of social networking there. And there's T hunting again. Eric actually heads up, the guy with the T. He actually heads up the T hunting group. And first Sunday of the month, we do a T hunt in SOARA as well. So we do have a lot of different activities. On the left is Ray, our president, and on the right is our publications director, Dale. And this was just the latest SOARA Saturday, where we had emergency power and ops. It's good timing with all the fires in Southern California these days. But we had a lot of different people set up with their battery boxes, their solar panels, and they were both running HF rigs as well as UHF and VHF. And then this is Chris, KR6ISS, and he was actually sitting at my table, and you can see in the background with the yellow 3D printed parts there, that's a ICOM 7300 with a UHF, VHF, FTM 400 in the foreground. So right there, what I was trying to do is demonstrate emergency communications with battery boxes. I unfortunately forgot to bring my solar panels. Otherwise, I'd have had those hooked up too. But it was a lot of fun with that. And there's a front shot of the table. The box on the left is kind of interesting. That's where I keep all the power poles and connectors and stuff. One thing people don't think about in an emergency is having different kinds of connectors and cables and stuff like that. The one in the foreground is actually two big clips to clip onto a battery, and then a power pole connector where you can connect a lot of power poles to it. So that was a really, really good idea. That was KI6LOM, Jim's idea. He said, that's all I need. I can hook into a car battery and I'm talking.
Wow. Well, that is just terrific, Ed. Now, Ed, on your Super Saturdays, your SOARA Saturdays, do you find that you're now gaining more club members that are hams that hear about this and stop in and realize that this is real ham radio, where it's not just you talking to them, but everybody's got something and they're making things happen? Is that how the club grows?
Yes, that really does help. We advertise in the SOARA SOARA.org. We have a SOARA Saturday page on the website. If you go into activities and then SOARA Saturday, you'll see that. And we try to schedule things a year on different activities, and then I get feedback from members, and then the feedback we use. In fact, this is where I'm politicking for the 2020 events, trying to find out exactly what people want and try to give them things that they're interesting. Just like our next SOARA Saturday is going to be on Meggers and insulation testing, high voltage insulation testing. And the other thing that I do is I try to give people details and links so that before the SOARA Saturday, they have some information about what we're going to do and they know what they're going to get. The other aspect of this that's really important is that you tell people ahead of time, so if there's some topic they really want, they can schedule for it. If you don't tell people until the last minute, you don't know what you're going to get because people won't plan for it.
Wow. Well, that is terrific. Well, Ed, your club, South Orange Amateur Radio Association, is one of the biggest growing clubs I've been around in a long time. So coast to coast, all of you that work with your clubs with programs, feel free to look at all the great stuff that Ed has presented on the SOARA webpage. And Ed, any final words on SOARA's success on SOARA Saturdays that you have developed to get more members to join the club, and more important, more members to get active? Ed?
Well, it's a team effort. There's Heiko, who helps me a lot. And then there's also our education program that Steve UVR supports, and that feeds right into the SOARA Saturdays. And then Eric with tea hunting. SOARA does a lot of different activities, and that's how we pull them into these different aspects of ham radio. And it's a lot of fun.
Oh, that is terrific. Well, Ed, thank you so much for your premier experience here on Ham Nation, but certainly a long-standing premier of all the great SOARA Saturdays that you offer. And I encourage all of you throughout the country, throughout the world, watching and listening to this podcast to join up and watch the SOARA webpage and work with Ed, because he's really making ham radio happen. So, Ed, thank you so much. And all of us here at Ham Nation just wish you and the SOARA organization the very best, because all of you as a team are making ham radio grow. Ed, a final from you.
Well, thank you, Gordo, and thank you, Ham Nation, and hopefully the different ham radio clubs around the world get a few ideas from this and make your club better.
Well, thanks so much, Ed, and Very 73. Wow. Well, I thought all of you would enjoy some different short shots of ham radio really in action. So, George, what do you think? Pretty good deal for getting more hams into our hobby, thanks to Steve and his classes, and then getting Ed to get them on the air. What do you think, George?
I agree 100%, Gordo. That really looks like an amazing club there. I wish I lived nearby, because I would be at those meetings. They talked about a lot of my favorite things, especially the Arduinos. You know, I like to play with that kind of stuff, and it's nice to see them bring that into Ham Radio Club, because so many things you can do, but not just that. A lot of different programs, it looked like. So, yeah, that's really going to get some excitement going in ham radio, I think, Gordo.
Well, that's great. Now, chat room and those live, Ed is going to stick around. So if you have a question, Amanda will pick it up, and we'll grill Ed at the end. George, back to you.
Okay, Gordo. Wow. Yeah, like I said, that looks like a very nice club. And Ed, can you give us the website one more time, spell it out for us? Or I think maybe it was on the bottom of your lower third and I just missed it there. But for those who, maybe are listening to the podcast or on WTWW, would you spell out that website for us? Because I know there's a lot of clubs that could benefit from what you guys are doing there.
Sure. It's www.soara.org.
There it is.
Okay.
SOAR. Yep. SOARA.
South Orange Amateur Radio Association. I know there's a lot of South Oranges, so whether you're East Coast or West Coast or Gulf or Great Lakes, here comes another one. Sierra Oscar Alpha Romeo Alpha. Oh boy,
I feel a lot better now. Yeah. I feel a lot better now that you messed it up too, Gordo. That's, but yeah, go check that out. Wow. Lots of good project ideas that clubs all over could be using. And gee, thanks for being with us tonight, Ed, and we'll have you back in a little later. Right now, though, let's get a message from ICOM, and we'll be back because we got more to go. Heard it, worked it, logged it. It's time to get the transceiver that's best suited for your lifestyle. ICOM offers a variety of high-performance and innovative products. Make the most out of contest season with one of these ICOMs today. IC7610, the SDR every ham wants. This high-performance SDR has the ability to pick out the faintest of signals, even in the presence of stronger adjacent signals. The ICOM IC7610 is a direct sampling, software-defined radio that will change the world's definition of a SDR transceiver. RF direct sampling, 110 RMDR, independent dual receivers, and dual digicell. Or get the IC7300. Changing the way entry-level HF is designed, this high-performance, innovative HF transceiver with a compact design will far exceed your expectations. RF direct sampling, 15 discrete bandpass filters, large 4.3-inch color touchscreen, real-time spectrum scope, and SD memory card slot. Keep your competitive edge with faster processors, higher input gain, higher display resolution, and a cleaner signal. ICOM's IC7851 is the pinnacle of HF perfection. Dual receivers, digital IF filters, memory keyer, digital voice recorder, high-resolution spectrum waterfall display, enhanced PC connectivity, and SD memory card slot. Visit ICOMAmerica.com/amateur for more information on all the great ICOM radios. And ICOM invites you to enter in their weekly drawings for some great swag prizes like T-shirts and hats at icomamerica.com/HamNation. When you register each week, you'll automatically be entered in the grand prize drawing for a new radio. And we've got a winner for October. Our winner is going to receive an ID 4100A entry-level D-Star Mobile with big rig features. And the lucky winner is Elizabeth Klink, KE8FMJ, from a town you may have heard of, Xenia, Ohio. Elizabeth, you're really going to enjoy that rig. It's a great way to get into D-Star. Good price, and really, they have stepped this one up a lot. It has some great features in it, makes D-Star a lot easier to use. So I know you're really going to enjoy that. For November, we've got another prize here, another great radio. This is the ICOM IC2730A VHF UHF dual band dual watch analog transceiver. It's got simultaneous VHF UHF or VHF VHF or UHF UHF receive. It's simple to operate with separate knobs and buttons for each band, and there's a large high contrast display as well. Weather alert function built in. There's an optional Bluetooth board available and free downloadable CS2730 programming software. So go to icomamerica.com/HamNation after this and each episode and register to win. Sign up, good luck, and don't forget to follow ICOM America Inc. on Facebook and Twitter. And although Bob couldn't be with us tonight, he did bring us a couple of videos. He sent them over to me, some things he thought you might be interested in. The first one is a rig I know is dear to his heart here. Let's take a look at the tour.
I want to tell you a little bit about this lunchbox, as we all called it. It was about 5 watts, tubes, of course. And as I said a while ago, they had a 6er, a 2er, and a 10er. What's so unique about it, it was crystal controlled, high impedance microphone input. But on the side of it, what do you think that's for? Right now it's holding W3 GQQ's QSL card. That was to put your license. It was a place to hold your FCC license. You drilled a hole in the cabinet because in there was the microphone level control. I don't know why they'd ever brought it out. And it had it came from the factory with an RCA antenna coax, and this has been modified for the regular RG239. And that was the power supply connection. What a great little rig. I've had many, many hours of fun with my 6er. Worked a lot of people around the globe with 5 watts because 6 meters was open all the time.
You know, there's just something about the look of that old vintage gear like that. And I wish we had 6 meters open right now well enough that you could use something like that and talk all over the globe, but it will be again one day. It's just a matter of time. Well, we've got one other video here that Bob got for us tonight. This is Lonnie, W0GZV. He used to work for Collins. As a matter of fact, he was Art Collins' personal engineer. He's retired and works with CAF, primarily taking care of ART-13 and ARC-5 on Fifi. And you may remember seeing Fifi here before, that great vintage aircraft. Anytime that Fifi flies, Lonnie's on board. So let's take a look at him describing the rig setup here. I think it's pretty amazing.
Could actually select these channels if you wanted to. So you got the radio operator here to do that, or you can hand off to the pilot simply by remoting this switch from local to remote. So this was the revolutionary auto-tune concept that had never been done before in the military. It had been done by Collins for Braniff Airlines and some of the airlines in 1938, 39. But they took this concept into the military, and this was the famous ART-13 that resulted. So let me take that down to 40 meters and give you another try at that. Now, I have to point out, the operator could set up frequency by looking in the book and getting the number he had to set up. That was very accurate. All he had to do was to pick the right band here. The difficulty was tuning the antenna. This was to match all kinds of antennas, short antennas on an Avenger, a single engine Avenger or a Hellcat diver, to long antennas like on this particular airplane here, 69-foot antennas. In the stock airplanes, the antenna came in the bulkhead like it does here, and it draped clear across, the raw antenna lead draped clear across and down over here, unprotected. I don't know how many GIs got RF burns off that antenna. We couldn't do that here because in this box here are all the ComNav modern avionics boxes. And I could not spray this whole area with thousands of volts of RF. So in this particular case, because first of all, we didn't have much real estate here, we had to cram everything together because we lost this room right here where normally the ART-13 sat. We caused this to match into 50 ohms and then coaxed it over to this antenna coupler, which was not in existence in 1944 or 45, but it was in existence in 1956 when Arthur Collins and General Butch Griswold flew over the North Pole with an amateur KWS-1 and a 75A4. And this was the little antenna coupler that was conjured up to match that VC97 antenna, long wire antenna. And so I happen to have one, and I donated it to Fifi here, to the cause, and it tunes that complex impedance antenna to 50 ohms. I've gotten a lot of complaints about the MFJ meter here, and I maybe get Collins 601 or whatever, no, 301C or whatever it was. But I wanted to have something that could quickly match the antenna to the 50 ohm coax.
Gordo, isn't that an auto tuner that you can really get behind? You feel like you've done something when you hear that going.
That was great, and I loved how the knobs tune themselves. Wow, what a great story that was, and what a great story the tour was, because George, the neat thing about the tour is you'd set that's I believe when we had 144 to 146, can't remember if we had 147 then, but you'd set your receiver to about 145, and because the tour was gosh, I can't think of the word. Oh, super regenerative. There we go. Because the tour had a super regenerative receiver, you could hear everything from 139 to 148 just by barely moving the tuning knob. So back in those days, it was CQ and tuning. And on the tour, you'd just swish back and forth. And whenever you'd find a signal coming back to you, you'd go back, and the other operator was doing the same thing. So we were operating split from the get-go long before repeaters. George?
Oh, wow. I hadn't even thought about that. But yeah, I guess that would make it pretty simple to do. You know, I've never operated one of those really old rigs like that. Really, I I don't know that I've ever operated a Heath kit. Now that I think about it, I may have to do something about that. Anyway, tonight, this is a show all about ham radio and radio in general. And this is one of my favorite hobbies right here. I'm going to show you. It's something that I've done for years, and I imagine most of the people here have done it as well. If you haven't, a lot of younger people may not have really spent any time at all on the AM broadcast band. You're missing out if you haven't. Now, I'm not saying, there's a lot of music programming on there anymore. There is some. It's a lot of talk programming. But my favorite time to listen is at night, because you don't know, really, you got a pretty good idea of stations that you should be able to pick up reliably, but it varies a little bit from night to night. Fortunately, down on that band, we're not quite as affected by the low sunspot cycle like we're in right now. There's always some activity and long-distance stations that you're going to pick up at night. But you never know. You will find unusual finds in there. And, well, I just want to show you a few of the things I use to make it a little bit simpler. First thing I want to look at here is what I'm going to use for a receiver. And this is the SDR Play. It's the SDR Duo is the one that I have, but it's a great software to find radio. It's actually just a little box, USB connector and antenna input. You connect up to your computer, and then you got the display here, and it's broadbanded. Right now, you can see I'm tuned in on 5085. That's WTWW, where right now, guess what they're playing on there? It's Ham Nation. And they do that each week for Ham Nation. I suggest that you check it out. Every night there's something interesting going on 5085. They have music programming a lot of nights now, and it's going to remind you of radio from the 50s, 60s, 70s. They may play something out of the 80s, but, they've got automated request set up now so that you can go to WTWW.org and enter in a request right there and get it played on the air. But there's also a lot of great talk programming on there. Like tonight, there's Ham Nation. But on other nights, like, last night, they had talk programming going on, all about ham radio. And every Saturday night is a big night to tune in and hear a lot of different ham radio content. You're going to enjoy some of the programs there. So I suggest you go check out 5085 kilohertz WTWW. And we appreciate everything that Ted and the whole crew do there, because it is not cheap to run a shortwave transmitter. And boy, it's none of them are getting paid for doing this nighttime programming there. It's not the regular format of the station. It's especially for people who really enjoy radio, like Gordo there. I don't know what he's holding up, but I'm sure it's some kind of radio.
Well, I absolutely agree with you, George. There is so much out on not only shortwave, but also on medium wave. That's how I got my start. These are radios that come from a shortwave listener guru called C. Crane. Bob Crane developed his company based on shortwave receivers, and these are all C. Crane shortwave receivers that have been developed by him and built by specialty shortwave manufacturers. And it is captivating. So if you've got an older ham rig that is maybe not general coverage, then you should give it a try. Now, those on SDR, yeah, you've got it made in the shade for finding that sweet spot. But I always like to tune around and see what else is around that sweet spot. So if you're looking for a great shortwave analog tuning or digital tuning, C. Crane, just Google that. They're out in California. They do a great job of shortwave. But George, you're absolutely right. There is so much out there on the airwaves that is literally captivating, and I can't wait to play with more of the C. Crane products. And yeah, there's one right there that tunes in not only AM, but also single sideband as well. So lots of neat stuff out there, George.
Oh, yeah, some really great radios. Now, a couple other things I have found that really make this hobby go a lot further today, or a lot quicker than maybe it used to, thanks to the internet now. We've got a few resources on that. The first one I want to mention here is a website, Radio Time Traveler. It's radio-timetraveler.blogspot.com. There's great posts on there continually from Bill Scott, WE7W. But right up there on the right top-hand corner, you'll notice he's got a lot of information there. Well, he's basically taken the FCC database and compiled it down and got it matched up with Google Maps. You can download the various maps right there. But there's another website that's NF8M that is operated by Frank Maynard, NF8M. He has taken the data that Bill put together and has got it on his site there, where you can just go click on, and you don't have to download the zip file and unzip it. It's all right there with a directory on the internet where you can click and go check out individual frequencies. So back to my radio right here. We were just looking at shortwave there, down around 5 megahertz. I wonder if we could pick up anything on the AM broadcast band. Now, this is why I kind of like software-defined radios. They're not the only kind of radios I would use, but they're mighty convenient for some purposes. This is one right here. How many signals do you think I would see on the AM broadcast band at night? Well, there is a couple. As a matter of fact, all those little peaks right there are exactly 10 kilohertz apart. That means I've got a signal here on every frequency on the AM band. Now, they're not all listenable because, you know, some of them, it's 2 or 3 signals there stacked up on top of each other. But that is still a lot of signals, all of that in our old friend, the AM broadcast band, the first commercial radio band. I just wanted to point out a couple of things here. Well, one, with this receiver here, we can listen out to 11 kilohertz wide. So you're going to hear whatever fidelity is there, unlike the radio that's in your car or most AM radios this day that are narrow banded. But now a lot of your ham receivers will have a pretty broad AM response on them as well. But I just wanted to show you the maps that we were talking about a moment ago. Let me pull those up here. And this is at NF8M. I clicked on nighttime. And now here's a list of all of the AM broadcast frequencies, everywhere from 530 kilohertz up to 1700 kilohertz. Let's just spot check a few frequencies here and see how they perform. If we go to 750 kilohertz, wow, there is all of the stations that are on 750 kilohertz at night. It's not that many of them. That's because WSB over in Atlanta is a clear channel station, and they are protected. You'll see there's really nothing else up inside their pattern except this station over in Nebraska over here. But they're directional. You see, that's not a circle there. That's kind of got a kidney bean shape to it. It's pointed away from Atlanta, so it's protecting Atlanta like all the rest of these. This one here, KERR, that is pointed away from Atlanta. So these things are shoehorned in here where they're not going to interfere with each other. Now, it's, this is a clear channel frequency here, 750. Well, let's see what we get if we go to 750 here on our radio. See if I can pick up WSB. I might can pick it up tonight. Oh, yeah, there's a signal there. They're coming in strong, and, looking at our map there, we would think, I'm right here in Mississippi, so I should have a strong signal on that. Now, let me say, the areas that you're seeing on these maps are ratios. They're greatly exaggerated. That doesn't mean that this signal is going to reach all this area, but it does give you a good idea of the pattern of the signal, which way it's pointed, and a ratio between the different stations on that frequency, what they're going to look like. Now, let's check out another one here. This is, some of you may have heard of this station before, 700 WLW in Cincinnati. Wow, that's a good footprint there. We'll notice that they are 50,000 watts at night. They don't reduce power. They stay the same power day and night, where majority of AM stations will, I won't say the majority, but a lot of AM stations will reduce power at night and go directional to where they're not interfering with each other. You can see WLW right here has got this nice big area. They're protected. Everybody else on that frequency is pointing their signal away where it's not interfering with WLW. So can we pick that up here? Well, let's see. I'll go to 700. And, the signal, I don't see a super strong signal there. It's down a little bit lower. Earlier tonight, it was coming in good. Well, there's still a signal there, but, it's going to vary throughout the evening as to how well each station comes in as the band changes. And the time to listen and hear the most unusual finds is going to be right around sunset and right around sunrise every morning. Now, let's check, another one here, WLS, is on 89, and a good part of the United States can receive that. Here in Mississippi, we used to receive it really well at night. You can see they've got a good big footprint here. Everybody else is protecting them. They're a clear channel station. So that's why there's not a lot of other signals crowded up right next to them. Now, I don't know. WLS doesn't seem to come in as well at night as it did, say, when I was a kid and, tuning around. But let's see. What do we have on 89 tonight? We can hear them in there a little bit, but there's a lot of Cuban interference on a lot of these stations now that wasn't in here until, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago or a little bit over that. The Cubans started jamming a lot of the frequencies here in the AM broadcast band. Now, all these we've been looking at, these are clear channels. Let's go look at, something a little closer. As a matter of fact, here is one right here. This is 620. That is WJDX. I used to be chief engineer at that station. I'm the engineer for some other stations in the market now. but I was the engineer there for a lot of years, and that's why I took that as my call sign. Well, that frequency, there's a lot more signals on it. Look at here how all these are stuck in. Most of them are directional. You can see they're not circles. As a matter of fact, practically every one of them I see there is a directional pattern. They're using one or more towers to direct their signal from one area or another. Now, I'm going to clear all the plots here, and we're going to just go back and look right at WJDX. We'll just plot this one. And there's a pattern. There's 3 towers here, and that signal is pointed to the south, and there's a little ear that goes out on either side of it here. That's only 1,000 watts, and no, it doesn't go very strong into the New Orleans area. But out in this area right here in these knolls, you won't hear that station at all. And the same with all these other AM stations that are directional. This particular one uses 3 towers here, and there's power fed to each of the towers at a different phase. So unlike a Yagi where we've only got one driven element, most of these AMs that are directional, using 2, 3, 6 or more towers, they're feeding a little bit of power to every tower. Now that's not exclusively, in every case, but in most cases, yeah, there's power going to each tower. So if we look back here at 620, you can see right out here in this knoll, the reason the signal doesn't go that way, well, protecting a station out here in Plano, Texas. And this corner over here, you see there's no signal there. That's because I can't, what is the call letters now? WDAE, used to be WSUN down in Tampa, protecting them at night. Up in this direction, to the northeast, protecting a lot of stations up here. So that's how they're able to get a lot of frequencies on just a few channels. Some frequencies are more crowded than this. This is just a few examples. Let's look at one that's, 1400. There are a lot of signals. Wow, look at that. All of these signals here are 1,000 watts. Nobody is directional. Everybody is omnidirectional. So if you go to 1400 and you don't have a signal that's, right in your neighborhood there, you're going to hear a lot of noise because, boy, you're talking about people stepping on top of each other. So, this is a real time sink for me, Gordo. I can spend hours doing stuff like this and exploring these. Back 30, 35 years ago, I had a book that had all these patterns in it. They were hand-drawn. And that's how the radio clubs would look around and try to decide who they were hearing and such. Now it's right here on the internet, and it's the click of your mouse. You can go check all of these out. So really a lot of fun. I hope, some of our viewers can go take some advantage of that information. What do you think? Good resource?
Oh, wow. Sure beats tuning. But, wow, that's the best, George. One more time, tell us about the gear so we can start looking at the same stuff. So how'd you pull in those stations?
Well, what I'm using here is the SDR Uno, our SDR Duo's one here. I'm using RSP Duo from SDR Play. But you can use whatever you want. You can use your ham receiver if you've got wideband coverage. You can use your C-Crane shortwave receiver. That's going to have a really good AM on it. You can use your AM car radio if you're riding down the road. They're probably not as good as they were back in the 60s or 70s, but they're still operational. But to the resources here on the internet that we looked at, the main one that I would say, to two here because I want to give credit to the guy who put in all the work, is timetraveler.blogspot.com. That's it. Oh boy, it's written right there on the bottom. I wrote it there and didn't see it. But this is a guy who did all the work to put these maps together. And you can download the zip file and you'll have all of these maps right there on your computer. You can even put them on a lot of tablets and cell phones as well. I know they work on Android. Or for an easy directory of it, go to nf8m.com and search right on there. You'll find the U.S. medium wave patterns. And that's what I was clicking on here. That was showing me the display of, all those signals, where they were all over the bands. And, it's pretty much only U.S. and Canada on these maps. They don't have any Mexican stations on it or Cuban or many other countries. They do have some of the island nations. But, wow, great resource there. You can use that information with any radio you got. If you got a good loop antenna, you're ahead of the game, too, because then you can null out those that you don't want to hear. Amanda, have you ever listened around on AM broadcasting?
I do. And in fact, we have one of those 1,400 AM stations in our backyard. So it's actually about a mile away from our home. And KRLN, I love listening to them. It's oldies, and then they also play the local football games and such like that. But I have a question for you, George, that a lot of people have been asking. Besides the hardware, we got to know, what antenna are you using to pick up these stations?
You can use a lot of different things. I actually have a loop antenna, an MFJ loop antenna with the preamp on it that really does a good job of nulling out the stations you don't want to hear. That's the biggest problem, when you're trying to do something like that. There's so many signals on the frequency, and it's not like it's a contest weekend. This is every night all those signals are there, and there's a lot of stations, a lot of signals way down there that you're not going to hear them because there's so many others. But if you've got a loop antenna, you can turn that, null out the offending signal, and pick up the signal you're trying to hear. But the main thing the loop really helps for that is, getting rid of the offending signals, the ones you don't want to hear. But tonight, this is, what antenna am I on? I'm on my 80-meter loop, which is not directional. It's a horizontal loop that I use on the 80-meter ham band. I also will flip over and use it on my 40-meter off-center fed antenna. A piece of long wire, anything, whatever you got, just disable your tuner. You don't want to have your tuner in line, because then you're putting a filter on there, and you're probably narrowing the bandwidth of your antenna. You're tuning it for where you want to transmit and receive when you're using your ham receiver. But if you're wanting to go out of band and, or broadband, disable your tuner, and you're going to have a lot better success.
Well, thank you for that, George. And stick around, because we'll have a couple more questions about this AM stuff, and we appreciate it. Back to you.
Okay, cool. Well, I guess we better move on at this point, because although Don is not here, he did leave us a Newsline report tonight.
From Amateur Radio Newsline Report, number 2,191. These are the Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, October 30th, 2019. It was just a drill, but then drills are what make for practice preparedness. That was the case with the Great Shakeout, a series of earthquake drills held worldwide in October.
There were more than 66 million registered participants in 60 countries at schools, medical centers, government offices, and businesses. With preparedness at the heart of ham radio, the Jefferson County Aries Group in Washington State was among those to respond on October 17th, the 30th anniversary of San Francisco's Loma Prieta earthquake. Dick Illman, AH6EZ, Vice President of the Jefferson County Amateur Radio Club, said the Aries Group, also known as VCOM for Volunteer Emergency Communicators, helped coordinate the response to the exercise's simulated events. There were 17 neighborhoods reporting and 35 VCOM check-ins on the local Port Townsend repeater. The EOC team made use of a system based on FEMA's Lifeline concept. Jim Betterly, N7ING, operated from the local high school. Students there and throughout the Chimacum School District took cover under their desks and later were evacuated, according to local news reports. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Ralph Squillace, KK6ITB.
Many hams have used the popular Ham Test online service to study for license exams. Sadly, on Thursday, October 17th, Christina Cunningham, KT1NA, Ham Test Online's general manager, and the wife of owner John, W1AI, became a silent key at age 62 after a battle with cancer. Newsline anchor Paul Brown, WD9GCO, has more.
According to her husband, she wanted to be a ham in her 20s, but the men at the local electronics store told her it would be too difficult for a girl and she should just get into CB radio instead. She did, but after meeting John and discovering that he was a ham, she decided to get her license. John remembers.
She was a very strong-willed, very self-confident woman, and I said, so what license are you going to get? And she says, well, I'll get the extra, of course. Because, of course, by that time she knew enough about it to know what the levels were. And I said, okay, well, I'll help you. And she says, no, sorry, you can't help. I'm going to test and see if your course is any good. But anyway, after 6 weeks, she went. She took all 3 exams, passed all 3, and came out with her extra.
All of us at Amateur Radio Newsline offer our sincere condolences to John Cunningham and his family.
A longtime radio amateur in Illinois is facing child porn trafficking charges.
A longtime amateur radio operator and ham club officer in Champaign, Illinois, has been held accused of trafficking in child pornography. Milton Forsberg, K9QZI, who was described in the local News Gazette newspaper as a Boy Scout leader for more than 3 decades in the Champaign-Urbana area, is being held while the case goes to a grand jury. The newspaper said Forsberg, treasurer of the Twin City Amateur Radio Club, has also assisted scouts who were trying for their radio merit badges. His attorney, Steve Beckett, said his ham radio activities included providing emergency support services in coordination with the Champaign Fire Department. The 79-year-old Forsberg was arrested on October 16th. According to Champaign Police Sergeant Pat Simmons, he has denied any inappropriate contact with boys. The newspaper quoted Jared White, scout executive for the Prairie Lands Council, who issued the following statement on October 22nd, quote, "Upon learning these claims, we took immediate action to involve law enforcement, and while this individual is no longer in scouting, we barred him from any future participation in our programs. Nothing is more important than the safety of our youth members," close quote. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Kent Peterson, KC0DGY.
And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news for 4 decades and counting at arnewsline.org. With Ralph Squillace, KK6ITB, Paul Brown, WD9GCO, Kent Peterson, KC0DGY, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe. I'm Don Wilbanks, AE5DW. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation. With contesting season in full swing, give your station an edge with gear from DX Engineering, including receive antenna systems, headsets, and amplifiers perfect for your needs and budget. DX Engineering has a great selection of amplifiers that deliver the stable, efficient power punch required to operate with authority from 160 through 6. Like the ACOM 2100 1500-watt HF linear amplifier. It offers QRO operation and a manually tuned amp with several automatic protection circuits. It's reliable and easy to use. New from RF Kit comes the German-engineered RF2KS solid-state 1500-watt linear amplifier, available exclusively in North America from DX Engineering. It features full legal limit capabilities, low-noise fans, PIN diode transmit-receive switching, and dual LD-MOS devices. DX Engineering also carries high-quality amplifiers from Ameritron, Palstar, RM Italy, along with several other popular ACOM models. And DX Engineering offers high-performance headsets for serious contesters. Here are a couple of top models. Of course, the Heil Pro 7. That headset comes with passive noise canceling, a unique balance control, and phase reversal switches to help dig out weak signals. At only 13 ounces, the W1 competition headset from NRAD has over-the-ear earpieces that won't hurt after hours of use, thick rubberized foam padding, and a dynamic microphone element on an adjustable long boom. Elevate your game for the next challenge with DX Engineering active receive antenna systems and accessories. DX Engineering's Receive 4-Square Complete Array package delivers excellent weak signal reception. These verticals are superior to active antennas in both signal handling and feed line decoupling. The array uses 4 symmetrically spaced elements to provide a 4-direction receiving system. The package includes receive antennas, controller and sequencer, cables, connectors, and needed tools. Also available, the DX Engineering Receive 8 Circle Package, reversible beverage systems, the NCC2 Receive Antenna Phasing System, and much more. DX Engineering ships faster than anybody else in the industry. Most orders placed by 10 p.m. Eastern are shipped the same day. Proven products and expert advice, DX Engineering is helping you shrink the globe. Request your catalog or shop online 24/7 at dxengineering.com/HamNation. And of course, we thank DX Engineering for their support of Ham Nation.
Okay, we look forward to seeing Don back with us next week. And we thank DX Engineering for all the support they give us here at Ham Nation. Well, it is Halloween, and the best dressed ham here on the show tonight, of course, as most nights, is Amanda. And we're going to turn it over to her and see what people want to know tonight.
Well, thank you. First, happy Halloween, everybody. Last year we had the poll of dark chocolate or milk chocolate. I chose milk chocolate. We lost, by the way. All right. First of all, the Raytown, Missouri. I'm not kidding you, and I can't believe that milk chocolate lost. I thought you guys were like with me. Okay, the Raytown, Missouri Amateur Radio Club has a ham fest this Saturday, November 2nd, Independence, Missouri. Also, Inford WNX wants us to know that Stone Mountain Ham Fest is in Lawrenceville, Georgia. Don't know what date because they didn't give it, but Google it if you're around that area. Ed, we do have a couple questions for you. The first one was pretty interesting, and I hope you show this off a little bit. Where did you get all of your HT holder mounts, and where can other people find them?
Oh,
it's pretty spectacular.
Well, many of them are 3D printed, and you can get it off of Thingiverse and print them yourself, and just search for WA6ED.
Okay, so scoot to your other side there, and let us all take a look if you guys didn't notice it in the background.
Okay. There's one, 2 different pieces of colors of filament, but you can download that off of Thingiverse.
Nice. Well, there you go, everybody. You first have to buy a 3D printer. Enjoy that investment. No, those come in handy for so many things, though. Like, really, I don't know how we don't all have them. Okay, Ed, so the other thing was questions about the batteries you were showing off and stuff. What battery chemistry are you using? Lithium, NiCad, lead acid? You tell us. Well,
personally, I have some lithium iron phosphate batteries as well as some AGM. One member donated a bunch of UPS batteries that were still good, so we use them. So what I would do is use what's affordable to you and that's functional. And think about it, most of the time you're listening. You don't necessarily need high current batteries all the time, so only when you're transmitting. So you can have a mix of batteries for emergency power.
All right. Well, thank you for that. My next question is about your club. How many active members do you guys have? Oh, Gordo, show off what you're showing off. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to show off his lithium iron phosphate. This is a whopping 20 amp hours, and this ran my HF rig throughout field day. It was a QRP rig, but the voltage was 13.7 by the time we finished it. And this is a BioInno lithium iron phosphate battery with a built-in controller to make sure I don't blow it up.
That's necessary. Safety first. Ed, anything else on that?
Yeah,
I'm not blowing it up
same
yet.
Battery. Yes.
Say that again, Ed. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. That's the same battery that I have, the BioInno, and then the AGMs are You can get those off Amazon for UPSs if you want to buy a new one, or find somebody in the club where they're recycling all their UPS batteries, and usually they have good life in them.
Okay, that's good to know. I have a lot of UPS batteries laying around here, so if anyone wants them, come take them off of our hands, please, because they just sit in our garage. Not kidding you. My other question was, how many active members do you have in your club?
Well, currently is 227. We vary up and down throughout the year. About the highest we've been at recently, around 250. So it varies based upon members, new members, and people that whether they renew or not.
Okay, and so we always see Dayton offering the Ham Club of the Year. Have you guys ever been nominated? If not, you guys out there, the viewers, you might want to consider it.
Well, we're kind of a laid-back club, so I think we're, I forgot what the ARRL, was it Full Service Club or whatever? Anyway, I'll mention it to the president of the club, and we'll see if we can pull it off. But being out here in California, sometimes with volunteers, it's hard to get us organized sometimes on things like that.
Oh, absolutely. But I have a feeling you guys could be up next for that award for sure. You're doing some good stuff. And my last question is that you had mentioned doing activities in Firewatch. So you're obviously also very heavily involved in your Aries and participating in that faction.
Yeah, both Aries and Races. In Mission Viejo, we have a group that SOARA supports. SOARA also supports the Firewatch use of our repeaters. We actually have 11 repeaters within our club, so there's a lot of coverage over a lot of area in South Orange County.
Oh, definitely. That's a huge amount of repeaters, and you also need a lot of moolah to support those. So I hope that your club funds, your fees for the year cover that for you.
Well, some of them are, we do pay. Santiago Peak up on the top of the mountain is expensive, but a lot of the other ones we don't have to pay. It's basically through different arrangements we've made over the years, and it's basically phone charges, things like that, insurance.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Sometimes electricity bills come into play, I know, from our standing and having lots of repeaters up on the air as well. Ed, we thank you so much for being here. I'm going to break from you for a minute. I have a couple more questions for George and all of his AM information. So, George, this was kind of an interesting question. Kevin from New Zealand, ZL1 KFM, wanted to know, do these AM stations have the rights to transmit into Canada, or how does that work? Are any restrictions there?
Yeah, they can. You know, all of this stuff was coordinated between the various countries in the region here, except Cuba doesn't really coordinate very well. I'm not sure how well Mexico and South America are coordinated with us either, but yeah, right up here in North America, all of these, were negotiated amongst the various countries and their radio regulating organizations, so that we know. As a matter of fact, I can't think of a frequency in Canada right now, CKLW. I wish I could remember their frequency, but I would pull them up and we would see that they have a great big circle there, and it goes way down into the United States. And then there's very few other stations on that frequency, and they're all protecting CKLW. So all this stuff was coordinated just like it was sort of like all one piece of land. And yeah, it kind of is, isn't it?
Yeah, and it reminds me of frequency coordinating just for amateur radio repeaters. So they probably have the same kind of committees and, get together and they all have to vote and say, yes, you're allowed to transmit on that, and that you have this much power, and let's see your altitude or your elevation, where you located, and all of that takes a factor, just like it would in amateur radio repeaters, I would assume, right?
Yes, you do. And as a matter of fact, I think CKLW is on 800. So if we looked at that map, here it is right here. And we can see there they are right there. They're the big signal. They're covering a lot of area here. And, you know, all these other signals down here in their area pretty much are tiny little spots. And then these over here are pointed the other direction. There are some other stations, though, that do compete some with them, but you know, that maybe wasn't the best example. But you can see they're the biggest signal on that frequency.
I get what you're trying to prove there. I understand completely, and yeah, you don't want the cross mixing or, but hey, it happens in different propagation. Even on FM radio, you're driving one day and you're picking up the radio station just fine. The next day it's really crummy. Probably the same happens on AM, right?
Oh, yeah, and Skywave. We know all about Skywave and ham radio, and the same thing there. You know, this AM broadcast band and 160 meters perform a lot the same. Not exactly, but, you know, they're neighbors. You know, 160 meters is right above the AM broadcast band. So, you know, 80 meters, yeah, that's a little further away, a little different propagation. But all of these lower bands here, or the HF frequencies, are going to have some skywave propagation. And different bands perform differently at different times.
Absolutely. That's why you got to tune in and see what you hear, and send them all SWL cards when you do hear them, if it's something unique. Not the backyard station by any means. All right, let's go over some nets tonight. We have 75 meters on 3905. We have the 40 meter net on 7192, D-Star on 14 Charlie, and DMR on 31012. So join in where you can, and our net controls are awesome, and thank you all for doing what you do every single week. We appreciate it. With that, George, I'll send it back to you.
Okay, Amanda. We appreciate you being here with us tonight and doing everything you do, and getting some great questions together there, too. You know, the folks over in the chat, well, boy, can you hear that? The bottom has fallen out here. I need to be going and disconnecting my antenna from my radio right here. So I'm going to get up and go do that in just a moment here while I still have a receiver connected to the end of it. Gordo, any final words tonight?
Yes, run! Run! That storm is coming. Happy Halloween, everyone, tomorrow night. And Amanda, back to you.
Thank you. Also, happy Halloween. I always look so forward to the trick-or-treaters coming by the house. I hope they come out tomorrow, even though we just got about 15 inches of snow in the last 3 days. So it's going to be cold. We got about 5.5 degrees here right now. So we're a little chilly, but looking forward to better weather this weekend.
Yeah, it was in the upper 70s here today, and tomorrow night I think it's supposed to be 33. So we're with the weather coming in, you know, you might guess there's something up. And yeah, today it's a temperature. Tomorrow it won't be, and we're going to have a stormy Halloween here. So I don't know. I may have a lot of milk chocolate left over to eat. So we'll see about that. Ed, thank you for being here tonight and bringing us some great information there about your club.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
And thanks to all our viewers here on Ham Nation. You know, we enjoy getting here with you every week and every Wednesday night at the same time, and presenting something. We don't always know what we're going to do. Sometimes we do. But, this is ham radio. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. So we've got plenty of topics out there, and we've got some great hosts and some great guests here. We hope you will join us next Wednesday night. And, we'll find out how much candy everyone had to eat after Halloween.
Hey, George.
This year.
Yes. George, really quick, on the same note of not knowing what we're going to do every Wednesday night, I do have a little bit of a breaking news from Don.
Okay.
He sent. He wanted to let everybody know why he's not on. Oops. Sorry, that was my bad. He wanted to let everybody know that he's thinking of everybody while he's having a big dinner with Don and some friends. So
yeah, I'm thinking, this doesn't look fair, man. That food looks a little too good for Don to be skipping out on us tonight. Oh yeah, look at that.
Good food and good drinks, it looks like.
Oh, Don, I'll take double order of that.
Oh yeah, and the EAS
Uh-oh.
is going off emergency alert on my phone over here.
Wrap it up.
Yep, I think it's going to rain. All right. 7-3, everyone. Join us again next week.